Where this idea of creating the type of man that you wanted to be come from? Because you didn't have that,
no.
Right? You didn't have some model of, oh, this is what I aspire to be like.
Right.
So did you craft that in your mind, or were there influences that came into your life?
It honestly came from, I was a big time movie guy.
Mm-hmm.
So we had no money. We lived in a $7 a month place growing up for a long period of time until my mom finally got enough money to move out. My best friend, his name is Johnny Nichols, growing up. His parents had 2 VCRs. So they would go to the Blockbuster, whatever the fuck it was called back then,
Yeah.
get a movie, and they would fucking illegally record the movie. So I would come over there, and I would go to Johnny's house, and every fucking Sunday and Saturday, they had like fucking 1,000 movies, man. And I would go over there and start watching movies. That's what I did. They wouldn't be home, I'd walk in the house, start watching fucking movies. And one of the movies I watched was Rocky. And I got obsessed with Rocky, and I got obsessed with Platoon and Rambo and all those fucking kind of war movies and shit, Predator and shit.
Yeah.
And I saw all these fucking badass guys. And one scene that particularly, I probably broke his damn VCR trying to watch this one scene. One scene that changed my life was only 2 minutes and 13 seconds, I believe around there, was Rocky 1, round 14. I talk about it all the fucking time, but it literally fucked me up. Like, you know how you're watching something and you get this weird feeling over yourself, like, God, dog, that was fucking special.
Mm-hmm.
And you get chills and you get kind of almost emotional, you get kind of choked up in your throat. So basically, man, I'm sitting there, I'm real young, going through all my hardships, just left Buffalo, New York, my dad beat the shit out of me, and I have nothing. And never had this feeling before of watching inspiration. I didn't know what inspiration was.
Yeah,
I didn't know what any of that shit was.
I bet.
I just knew, like, just pain and suffering and shit. So when I saw this guy who was Rocky getting knocked down and getting knocked down and getting up, so I was intrigued. So I sat back and watched it a little bit more. And Apollo was supposed to be the baddest person in boxing, and he knocks this fucker down in the corner. And what brought my attention was it was like a perfect storm for me. Was the music was perfect. It was a perfect scene for me to like almost gain strength. And I see this guy in the corner who reminded me of me. Guy couldn't read, talked all fucked up, just kind of this dumb boxer. But he had something that I wanted. And Mickey was saying, his trainer was saying, stay down.
Right.
And he didn't hear anybody. He didn't give a fuck. All this guy wanted to do was go to the distance. He didn't want to win. He just wanted to be able to go the distance. And when he stood up, off that, after getting knocked down for like the 30th time, and I'll never forget the look when Apollo Creed finally thinks he won. His back is turned to Rocky as Rocky's getting up, and as Mickey's saying, stay down. And once Apollo turns around, he looks at Rocky, that he's now standing up in the corner. And the referee is standing beside Rocky, and Rocky's like, hey, man, I'm fucking good. And when Apollo turns around, the look on this massive man who's the best boxer in the world, his face is just distraught. Like, what the fuck? Who the fuck are you, man? And when he's kind of wobbling in the corner, he's all fucked up, but he's like, no, man, not today. I just want to go against the best. I want to know that I am somebody. And he gets his gloves and he motions him back over. And Apollo's face, he like puts his face down and he shakes his head, and I'm like, that's what I want. That's what I want. So that scene was like, that's how I want to feel, because I was almost Rocky. I could feel how he was feeling. I know the pride he had to feel by, motherfucker, I stood up again.
Right.
And the pride he had to feel after going 15 rounds with the best person. He didn't win, but it wasn't about that. It was the fact that for the first time in his life, he knew he was something. He was somebody. He wasn't just some old bum from the street, as he said. And I wanted that feeling. So I knew to get it, I had to train. Something like Rocky did, but even harder, because this was a real situation for me. This was real life. So I started to create the real Rocky. I wanted to be the real version of a movie. But that's the hard part, though. That movie's inspirational. And in my life, there's a lot of times in my life when it wasn't so inspirational. There's a lot of lonely moments where there was no going the distance song in the background to keep me going.
Yeah, that music changes
No.
things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or lack thereof.
Or the lack thereof, man. There's a lot of times, there's a lot of quiet times, a lot of failure, a lot of disappointments, a lot of starting from scratch. But that's when I started to develop a different mentality. And I started to develop a mentality of, this is where it's at. Where you find out where you're at is when you're at the fucking lowest part of your life. So I started to develop a whole new mindset. Like, the lowest part of my life used to make me feel bad. The lowest part of my life now, it actually gives me strength because I know so many people stop. That's where they quit.
Right.
When they get to the fucking sewer of life, versus looking at it saying, oh yeah, motherfucker, now let's see what the fuck is up. Let's see what the fuck is up now. Let's see the millions of men out here in this world. They're not going where I'm willing to go now. This is where people stop. And this is where I started to develop the different mentality is. You want to test my resolve? You want to test my ability to go the distance? You want to see where your life ends and mine begins? That's where that mentality started for me. Because I started saying, man, you always end up in the dungeon. You got to find strength in that motherfucker or no one else does. So that Rocky movie was a little bit of a spark, but to become that person,